Well, hello, my friends and fans everywhere. Once again, it's your fitness captain, Jason, speaking. Join me, my weary travelers. Take your coat off, grab a stool or chair, come warm yourself by the fire. Maybe put on a pair of Slippy Joes, have a coffee, and join me, will you, for another story. Join me on a transcendental cosmic journey in which I will give you my cacophony cavalcade of conversation and my deep research, analysis, approximation, evaluation, discussion, and breakdown analysis of the all-important subject. You know what I'm about to say. The UFO or UFO phenomenon, as a lot of people like to put it, my friends, right? The UFO subject. Because it is a multifaceted, complex subject with a lot of moving parts. I do believe it's probably the most important subject of our times, my friends. And it comes down to the exotic technology that I speak about extensively on a lot of my videos, and hopefully will continue to do so. Because, my friends, ultimately this anti-gravity is going to beautify our planet, again, in ways we can't even begin to imagine. Now, my friends, I want to do a little bit of a rant, sort of a loose video, but somewhat serious as well, if that makes any sense, on Richard Dolan, okay? And maybe we'll relate some of his comments and how it relates to the TTSA, yes, to the Stars Academy, you know, that ridiculous company, the CIA, Operation CIA PSYOP, and marketing, merchandise scheme, scam. But my friends, I wanted to go over, I've done a critique of Richard Dolan the best I could the first time, my friends, on his live stream. Remember, he did the secret space program, I told you, live stream. I don't know how successful it was. Obviously, he has a lot more viewers than I do because he's been at this for 20 years. And unfortunately, my friends, even though I always qualify and say he's done a lot of great work over the years. I like how he covers geopolitics. I like how he covers a lot of different areas, the corporate infrastructure that we got going on, how the private corporations, you know, are sort of ruling this world and stripping away the middle class and so forth. But my friends, where unfortunately, I have to say it, he sells himself out, just like 99% of ufologists do out there, my friends, basically 99%, 98%, that they sell themselves out when it comes to subscribing, that they subscribe, we either reverse engineered alien spacecraft, that they dropped from the skies here and landed on Earth, and we got their parts, and or they say, of course, that some of them could be extraterrestrial ET, right? I mean, come on, friends, because it sells a lot more books. And, you know, at least Dolan, he was honest on one of his videos about a month or so ago. He said, I have to admit, I've been very sympathetic, yes, to the extraterrestrial ET hypothesis. He said something to that effect. My friends, there's absolutely no evidence for it. We're still searching. I always say we're on the cusp of this generation to be able to finally find out, are we alone or not? Now, to say that we're going to find other sentient beings, my friends, in the universe, that's going to be a long shot, but I think they're there somewhere, my friends. But I think more like we're going to discover microbial life in this generation, hopefully, my friends, at least. But to say, my friends, again, that we had to reverse engineer alien craft to be responsible for all these trillions of dollars of hardware, again, my friends, it's ridiculous. It was human ingenuity. It was us that made the breakthroughs, my friends, particularly those Nazi scientists inside of Germany in the 1930s. We also had ancient technological civilizations as well, my friends, okay? But in modern times, no question, the Nazis came up with a primitive anti-gravity, the Nazi scientists, okay? So I want to go over something. In the secret space program, in that, it was called Secret Space Program Evidence or something. He's going on about the evidence for Secret Space Program. Of course, anybody who does any sembling of research knows that yes, I would totally agree. There's massive evidence for Secret Space Program. I talk about in a lot of my videos, my friends, and I will continue to share those thoughts with you and the evidence for it. But where Dolan went off, you see, I know he's watched some of my videos because he chose to define why he uses this term the last few years of what he calls the others. Now, I think the only reason he had motivation to do that, my friends, in that live stream was because he watched one of my videos. And I told you guys and gals out there that, do you notice in the last few years that Dolan has been using this term. It's again part of his tippy-toeing. I describe a little bit of his persona, is that he says he's using this term others. He doesn't like to say ET extraterrestrials much now. He uses the term others. And it's supposed to be because he's referring to, again, sort of extraterrestrials. But he goes further to define these others, my friends, in a little bit differently, where he says, he goes on about the dramatically advanced secret space program. Of course, there's more than enough evidence, he thinks, for it. And he says that, and to a certain extent, we reverse engineered alien technology. That's what he says. That goes back to his Roswell theory, my friends, which is just totally, I can debunk that just like that, my friends. Just think about it. The paperclip Nazi scientists were at Dayton, right? They were at, what's the other place? I forget the other two locations, all in the New Mexican desert anyways, my friends, right? Come on. If you just collect the data points, you use logic and common sense. And I learned this from my buddy, Joe from the Carolinas, right? Hi, Joe. Are you there? Just making sure we're recording and getting up close to say, hi, Joe, my best buddy. Joe uses logic, common sense. That's part of his amazing YouTube channel, to confront the paranormal with reason, logic, and common sense, as he says. Right, Joe? But anyway, so you would know that for sure if the paperclip scientists are working, which they were in New Mexico, doing all kinds of testing with the Americans on this anti-gravity, which they were, and doing all kinds of other exotic space planes and God knows what, of course you don't need an ET exclamation that ET crashed from the skies in the New Mexican desert. It would be humans, it would be us, my friends, that were testing this stuff. But to sell more books and to make a lot more money and get more followers, to get convince these millions of true believers out there that it's ET, that's why Dolan, I believe, has subscribed to this, my friends, because there's no evidence for it. He's supposed to be a nuts and bolts historian. So I'm doing these videos, my friends, this one, like the critique of his live stream, to try to keep Dolan honest, my friends. And I'm bringing out the facts, and hopefully you'll agree with me. Because again, my friends, you just got to do the research, collect those data points, and I'm a truth seeker, my friends. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to add sufficient transparency in this vital subject, and the truth, my friends. And the truth is, it's not ET. It's all military UFOs. That's a new term I've come up with, my friends. Joe from the Carolinas agrees. And think about it, my friends. Other ufologists, I'm amazed they don't use that term. And Dolan refuses to use it. I mean, he knows I've used it in my videos, I'm sure. But my friends, it's so important. It cuts out any uncertainty about who's piloting them. You know, this is trans-international. Most of it's American military. And of course, you've got Russia. Russia has their own anti-gravity spacecraft as well, UFOs. China, I'm sure, too. So now let's get to the others, my friends. So he says, when he says about the engineered technology is partially responsible, he says, so it's predicated on the necessity of dealing with these others. So he's saying, my friends, that the secret space program and this reverse engineered alien technology, says, is partially dedicated on the necessity of dealing with these others. And right away I'm thinking, really? What are you talking about? He says, as often he admits he calls them in our world. He says, I call them this because I don't know exactly what they are. There's the tippy-toeing I described, my friends. You gotta, Dolan and all these other ufologists, except Joseph P. Farrell, they always bring up the uncertainty about who's piloting these UFOs. Although Joseph P. Farrell, the great Joseph P. Farrell, who I think is one of the best researchers in the world, of course, and on the UFOs and a lot of other topics he does, but he brought up, unfortunately, a lot of uncertainty. I believe he was sticking up for Richard Dolan in a large way when they did a live stream together. We'll go over that critique another day, my friends. But, and that was very unlike Joseph. I was a little disappointed there. But, so he says here, Dolan says, I call them this, meaning the others. He says, I call them this because I don't know exactly what they are. Are they extraterrestrial? They could be, he says. And then he goes, do they live permanently? Oh, I think that's a real possibility. Or sorry, he says, do they live here permanently? Oh, I think that's a real possibility, he says. Are they under our feet? Who are these others under our feet? That's what I'm asking myself, my friends. What is he talking about? He says, if they have been here long enough, Should we really be calling them extraterrestrials? I don't have an answer to that, so I call them the others. My friends, keep in mind, Dolan has already, I think even in that live stream, he had touched on, of course, we're, covertly, of course, we're working on transhumanism. We all know there's all kinds of genetic testing that they're doing. But he's referring to these others that it's something altogether different, that they've been here for like 1,000 years or something, right? That's what he's referring to. And he says, they're not from our civilization. They are here. My friends, what Dolan just described is basically exactly what Tom DeLonge, the burned out rock star from Blink 182, who was the front man for the TTSA, the ridiculous scam company with the dirty players, my friends, with no serious disclosure on UFO and the anti-gravity. My friends, Tom DeLonge said the same thing. He was talking about, I remember it in his presentation, I'll never forget it, my friends. I'm going to have to review it again for my memory's sake, and to share with you guys more. But in his presentation, he talked about, might have well been called the others as well. He was talking about how, the CIA, the governments, they've been dealing with this phenomenon, these others that have been here for thousands of years. And I think he used the term maybe extraterrestrial. But it's basically the same thing as what Dolan is saying here, my friends. I mean, and Tom DeLonge's going on about, in other words, another civilization. I mean, friends, there hasn't been some alien race, another civilization that is under our feet or could be elsewhere. My friends, again, all these trillions of dollars of hardware that's absolutely pertinent to the manufacturing of this planet, the black budget, my friends, this black budget enterprise, space enterprise, and I call it, my friends, we're living through a revolution of anti-gravity. An anti-gravity space travel revolution is really what I call it, my friends. Absolutely, we are. It's a covert military civilization, my friends, living through an anti-gravity space travel revolution. That's what it is. And my friends, this book basically proves it. If you just collect the data points, even though this book I think has been somewhat censored, it doesn't describe what the Nazis were working on in the 1930s. It doesn't talk about the Nazi influence when they worked with those Americans, but it describes, my friends, here's Paul A. LaViolette. I mentioned him and showed this book in other videos, my friends, because it's so important, I think. It shows you, it describes the mega Manhattan-like project, curating, building, researching, and testing amazing anti-gravity technology, my friends. No question. And it just went covert, but they were showing the testing that was going on. It describes T. Townsend Brown's amazing experiments and all these brilliant scientists, my friends. No question. And so I just wanted to get that off my chest, my friends, in a little rant, but respectively, on what Dolan is talking about with these others, And he, remember, my friends, he sits on conferences time and time again titled Alien Expo, right? I think there was even one time a conference titled Alien Hybrids or something. And he sits there with none other than Linda Moulton Howe at times. And it's cool that they're friends, I get it. And they're comrades on this subject. But he sits there with Linda Moulton Howe and the likes of Stanton Freeman. And both of them, my friends, particularly Linda Moulton Howe, she is absolutely full throttle over the years, time and time again, my friends, on this ET extraterrestrial push, even talking about alien hybrids. She did a whole book titled Alien Harvest. Remember, my friends? I think it was called Alien Harvest, wasn't it? And she's always pushed this ET theory on the cattle mutilations in the New Mexican deserts and elsewhere, my friends, just because a sheriff told her in the 1990s that he thought it was alien ET. Come on, my friends. The military were doing their secret military bomb tests, thermonuclear bomb tests in the New Mexican desert. Of course they're going to cut the cattle with the laser precision, as she talks about, and other researchers, to test the supply, my friends. That's what's going on. They're testing, and other researchers know this, they're testing most likely the radioactive isotopes from the nuclear fallout, my friends, which is obviously unhealthy to the environment. It's really disgusting what they did. But my friends, and whenever I discuss about the military, covertly and or overtly, there's a lot of great folks in the military, no question about it, my friends. I like to think I'm a military man myself. And so, my friends, again, there's a lot of great military folks. And even in the deep state of these governments, I'm calling out, my friends, We just got to be aware and hopefully get these greedy people out and the evil people out that have these insidious agendas. So my friends, let's get into another conference. So again, Dolan is sitting on these conferences, these ET conferences with Linda Moulton Howe. He could have corrected her. This Linda Moulton Howe, before I go to something else, I wanted to say, my friends, Linda Moulton Howe, she goes on about aliens. He could have corrected her. She even described, she was talking about military jets, of course, that chase these UFOs, and totally saying that this means that it's extraterrestrial. She's basically saying that. Are you kidding me? My friends, she should know better. Come on. This is very highly compartmentalized. Even the great Michael Schratt, the aerospace historian who's done amazing work, who knows a lot about what's going on covertly, he tells you the same thing, my friends, that most people in the high chain of military, including senators, congressmen, they're not read into these programs. It's a very ultra top secret group, but it's still part of the military, my friends. Absolutely it is. Again, it's these groups, my friends, that are living through a revolution of anti-gravity space travel revolution. Or I call it anti-gravity space travel revolution, either way, right? Seriously, my friends, I mean, come on. And it's part of it's electromagnetic propulsion as well. And this book describes the electrogravitics. It's all part of anti-gravity, my friends, what they were working on in the 1950s, okay? It went covert probably around 1952. We know there was a rogue group that had anti-gravity in 1952, my friends, from the U.S. flyover above Washington, D.C., if you recall. And there were lots of UFOs zipping around over 2 weekends. That's been widely reported. And thousands of witnesses saw that UFO flap above Washington. Dolan spoke about it as well. So my friends, I wanted to discuss where Dolan, he was in a conference. It was quite popular actually, and a lot of people thought it was a really good speech by Dolan. He was very eloquent, and spoke quite well for about 12 minutes or something. But he didn't clear things up where things need to be cleared up, and I'll tell you what I mean, my friends. He goes on about the National Security Conference. This is what it was, okay? And he describes himself, of course, that he's a researcher and historian, particularly on how it relates to national security policy, right? And he's made a career out of this, my friends, reporting on how the regular government responds to these, I describe what it is, military UFOs, my friends, okay? And other ufologists, Grant Cameron, he's sitting on a panel with Richard Dolan. He's a Canadian, he's our Canadian boy, Grant Cameron, but this guy drives me crazy too, my friends. I mean, he always talks about how the regular government responds. He doesn't get into the covert side. He doesn't talk about anti-gravity, that the secret military groups have it, my friends. He doesn't refer to comments from Ben Rich. Dolan touched on the comments from Ben Rich, my friends, the head of Lockheed Skunk Works in the 1990s, right? He even admitted, Ben Rich said the same thing, we have things that would make George Lucas jealous. Dolan had mentioned his comments, but didn't say who it was, okay? That's Ben Rich, my friends, that made those comments. And saying things that we have things that, if you could think of anything that you can think of 50 years ahead, we have things, 50 years beyond what you can comprehend, is what Ben Rich said. Now, sorry, I just skipped off there, my friends, but let me get back to this National Security Conference. So, my friends, Dolan, when he talks about he's talking about how the national security of the United States, and there's a lot of great Americans, my friends, in the United States, no question about it, but he's talking about how the national security responds, the establishment, the policies, how they respond to these UFOs. But my friends, you've got to clarify. You see, the national security of the United States, my friends, history shows you that was totally infiltrated and compromised in a large way by who? None other than Nazis, my friends, the Nazi scientists. Come on, folks. We've got the United States, and Michael Schratt has touched on this. He's spoken about it, my friends, and he's so right that we all know this. If you just look at what's happening to our world, my friends, since 1947, right? When the United States brought hundreds of those Nazi paperclip scientists, it was a total Nazi operation. They had brought hundreds of the brightest Nazi scientists. Russia got some as well. The U.S. got more. That's when, my friends, the national security state shortly after was compromised and infiltrated by these Nazis. I mean, come on. It's a Nazi-esque model, my friends. They've used a lot of what they were about as a template inside of Germany back then. Come on. The U.S. have used them as a template. Because that whole spy network, for example, I've said on other videos, my friends, under Reinhard Gehlen, right, on the Eastern Front, remember they had spies in Russia, somewhere in the U.S. as well. Anyway, that whole spy apparatus that just rolled right into the CIA. This is part of history. That's a known fact, my friends, and that's serious. I mean, come on. And Walter Dornberger was almost sort of a perfect example of that, because Walter Dornberger, Dark Journalist did a great job in videos on Walter Dornberger finding out, actually, he was the first one to find out that he got evidence and shows pictures, Walter Dornberger on the itinerary list that has his name in Washington, D.C. with none other than President Nixon. I mean, just incredible. This guy was one of the most notorious Nazis. You talk about having major flaws. Walter Dornberger, I mean, he was somewhat evil because he was hanging people from the slave labor camps, the poor Jewish people in the slave labor camps. He was hanging them if they didn't agree with him. I mean, this guy was something else. So he was a major deep state player, is my point. And we gave him vice president, the U.S. did, of Bell Helicopter, my friends. Vice president of Bell Helicopter. Unbelievable. You talk about infiltrating, I always describe parts of the U.S. intelligence agencies. I mean, and the national security. So when Dolan talks about the national security policies, this is such a vital part of history, my friends. And I don't know why Dolan doesn't talk about it. He's a historian. If you want to relate how the national security state and why they are responding the way they are to UFOs, this is what you should be talking about, you know? And again, part of that Nazi-esque model, my friends, the U.S., of course, they copied their space program, right? Even in Pudamanda, right? Right down to the countdown, Michael Schrad tells you the U.S. copied the countdown from those German scientists, right? And I mean, just truly unbelievable. And then, of course, after 1947, we all know that the Nazis started, those Nazi scientists, paperclip scientists, started the U.S. space program. It was like a Nazi superstate, I always describe at NASA. I mean, no question. Who was the head of Cape Canaveral? I mean, you got Wernher von Braun, of course, the big headshot was part of the NASA, but you had a guy named Kurt Davis, my friends. He was a famous scientist, but most people don't know. He was in charge of Cape Canaveral. I learned this from the great Joseph P. Farrell's research, my friends. This guy was in charge of getting all the UFO reports during the Saturn V rocket to the moon with the astronauts, which, by the way, my friends, Michael Schrad tells you, the Saturn V, basically it's a joke. I mean, he describes it, there's nothing advanced on that Saturn V rocket except the tiles. I mean, my friends, it shows you there was a covert military space program that had already been on the moon, and they were there when the astronauts went. We'll get into those amazing statements the astronauts made to support that in a moment, but just know that, my friends, there's no question about it. Saturn V rocket. And again, my friends, what do we see today? You see time and time again in the public, the government uses it like a scientific project. We're hearing about rockets. Don't get me started. We're going to do a whole video on rockets, my friends. And that, you talk about dinosaur technology, that's 70, 80 years ago from the Nazis, right? I mean, Michael Schrad tells you, I mean, it's just, you talk about waste of spending and all these space planes. I mean, the military's done some great work on some exotic stuff, my friends, but I'm trying to get to the point. We deserve the truth, my friends, on anti-gravity for this whole world. We've been lied to for 70 years now, 60 plus. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Totally wrong, my friends, to be lied to that long, all these decades. Come on. That's why I get exasperated, my friends. So again, the Nazi-esque model, my friends, and part of that, the U.S. sort of doing what the Nazis were all about is because the whole intelligence apparatus, right? The intelligence network gathering, the NSA, that was all patented after those German originals, right? And there's a lot of great German folks, my friends. We're describing, unfortunately, it is a Nazi-esque model, what the U.S. is doing. Of course, we're living in more and more of a totalitarian state. So you better believe, my friends, those Nazis don't just have a hangout position. The Nazis have a significant impact on the political, geopolitical decision-making going on in Washington, D.C. No question about it, my friends, and especially in space. A lot of control with the Americans and Nazis together. It's all part of history, and it's going on now, my friends. And just look, Sergio Glassiev, my friends, I don't even need to read the long op-ed piece that he wrote. I've got it mostly memorized. He said, here's some more evidence for this. He even said that the Americans are fully controlling the Nazis in Kiev, Ukraine. So he's basically saying they got boots on the ground. Even Joseph P. Farrell's talked about, you know, when the U.S. went to overthrow King Farouk, I think it was in Egypt, they had Nazis boots on the ground over there. So you got Nazis boots on the ground in Kiev, Ukraine, and Sergio Glassiev saying the Americans are fully controlling the Nazis over there, and that he claims the Americans are, you know, pushing this war to the bombastic end, they're our enemy, and he says the only way to get rid of Nazism is in Washington, D.C. I mean, truly a remarkable statement. And this guy's an economic advisor under Putin. And now why? He's not going to say that for no reason. He knows what's going on in Washington, my friends, and who's in control in certain aspects. So, again, the only way to get rid of Nazism is Washington, D.C. And Joseph's covered this as well, my friends. That means that's international. Whenever you talk about Washington, D.C. in these respects, this means it's worldwide, my friends, okay, globally. I mean, it's just, you got to be aware, my friends. This is all part and parcel of how the United States have run their country in certain ways. And still, I think in a lot of areas, the United States is a great country. But in that way, my friends, there's definitely a lot of improvement there. We've got to get out of this Nazi-esque model here, folks. And again, I've discussed videos on what those Nazis and inside Germany, what they were about. You know, under Hitler, they believed that they wanted the banksters in control. They wanted a multinational corporate state with multinational corporate ruling, right? That's what they were about. We see that in our world today. Corporate power, corporate greed, a lot of times you see, my friends. Hitler believed, I think, in a social welfare state, basically. I think that's a good thing, but even though he's a very dubious guy. But this corporate power, my friends, the corporate greed, these so-called multinational corporate elitists, it's just too much secrecy, my friends, too much power. And that's why a lot of the middle class and there's a lot of poor people, because it's all about corporate power, my friends, and banksters. And I've told you before, the U.S. intelligence agencies, this goes back to the National Security State, my friends, and the UFO subject that relates, because you've got now the huge hidden secret system of finance, this black budget, my friends, that I've done many videos on, and Catherine is the financial expert, the great Catherine Austin Fitz, who's trying to provide transparency and has to the black budget, along with other researchers now. You got 21 trillion missing since 1998, right? So you got what I've said on another video, my friends, that's placed this hidden secret system of finance has placed the U.S. intelligence agencies sort of annexed with international banksters. They're sort of in a shotgun wedding with international banksters playing the role of them. I mean, that's truly remarkable, and we need to be aware of that. I mean, and that's not very good. So I haven't even touched on the CIA, my friends. You know, other researchers, dark journalists doing a great job on the CIA, but just know the TTSA, of course, that's a CIA operation. Again, Dolan's story about the others, you know, it's ridiculous, because that sounds just like Tom DeLonge in his presentation. I don't know why I'm showing this book again, but I'm showing this book, my friends, again. It's a really good book. I hope my buddy Joe from the Carolinas, I hope, Joe, you might give it a read and buy it for yourself. Nikola Tesla in 1907, here's a picture, of course. We all know, with anybody who does a little bit of research, that he was going to do away with oil and gas in 1907 for the whole world, my friends. And that's why J.P. Morgan, his sponsor, pulled out. So it goes back, my friends, to the financial cabal. Some of these groups, my friends and people, unfortunately, they don't want to let go of their fundamental income, and they don't want to let go of the enslavement of the human race. And unfortunately, my friends, this powerful, legendary cosmic energy, my friends, this zero-point energy, because they're manipulating electromagnetism and gravity, they're getting the energy from the ether of space. That's why I always say, my friends, it's our divine right for the public, the whole world, to have this energy and utilize it. Not just for the covert military civilizations. My friends, we deserve this energy, okay? And they've been harnessing. I give credit to certain military, my friends, that they were able to really come up with UFO radical gnarly technology I always describe after 1947, when the brilliant American scientists worked with the brilliant Nazi scientists. They came up with some amazing stuff, my friends, and we're seeing in our world every day here on Earth, and particularly in space, and what's going on with the secret space programs. And my friends, we're going to do more videos on the secret space program, and I hope to talk about the space-based economy. We truly live in a remarkable and privileged era, my friends. I always say, right, we live in the informative information superhighway, uninhibited, unedited, and an era of space travel and exploration. So great to be alive. I'm talking fast, my friends. I got to go soon, but I'll try to slow down for the last few minutes, just seeing where we are. How are you guys feeling, by the way, my weary travelers? I hope you're enjoying this video, and I hope you're enjoying life. I hope you have a great day. But I wanted to really, I think it's important, my friends, that as great work as Richard Dolan has done, we got to keep him honest. We got to clarify more, my friends, this whole UFO subject, because these people should be using the term military UFOs, I believe. They should be talking more about the covert military civilizations. I noticed too, you know, Dolan didn't bring up his cool term that he came up with a few years ago, which his term was breakaway civilizations. And back then he came up with it because he knows it's a group of humanity that has access to a very, very high pitch of exotic technologies, that being the anti-gravity, my friends. And I still ask myself, why did Dolan not even bring up the term that we have a breakaway civilization? He used this term others, remember, at the end of the live stream. And I'm wondering, my friends, maybe he didn't bring up the term breakaway civilization because he knows that it's all human related, human ingenuity, and humans that are driving or riding around in these UFOs all over the place, my friends. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But I use the term, my friends, I think it's even more accurate to say we've got covert military civilizations. This is very clandestine, ultra top secret, very compartmentalized. We know they've got what they call special unacknowledged special access programs, or unacknowledged special access programs. And my friends, it's a very few people in the high chain of military are not even read into these programs again. So it's got nothing to do with ET, my friends. Let's clarify that, okay? We're still searching, and with amazing sophisticated telescopes, we've got the James Webb being released in October, I think, of this year. It's going to take over from the Hubble, my friends, and that's going to give us the best chance of finally finding out, are we alone or not? And they know they're going to make amazing discoveries regardless, my friends, okay? They're going to reveal the delicate star formations beneath those gas clouds. It's specialized to see in the deep infrared, whereas Hubble could not see very much in the deep infrared. So truly, my friends, we're living, as I always say, in a remarkable and privileged era, as I touched on earlier, my friends. So stick around, my friends. I'm super pumped for the discoveries yet to come. I hope you guys are as well. And again, I love talking about the UFO subject. Dolan does as well. But I kind of wish Dolan wouldn't talk about so much about the secret space program, because he's never going to get off, it looks like, off the fact that we didn't reverse engineer alien craft like he says at Roswell. Come on. Common sense says that, my friends, that we didn't. It was the paperclip scientists with their amazing, and the Americans with their amazing breakthroughs in anti-gravity that was going on. And we know this from my book I showed you from the 1950s, my friends. Again, covertly, they made the breakthrough about 1952. And I'll read you the publications, my friends, on another video of the American scientists. They were super excited in 1955. They were talking in newspaper articles. I'll read you 2 or 3 of them, like Michael Schratt did in an interview, where they were talking about how they were super excited. They knew they were going to make a breakthrough in anti-gravity, and discussing how these spacecrafts would accelerate thousands of miles an hour within seconds, turn amazing angles, because they wouldn't need air for lift. Just truly remarkable stuff, my friends. And yeah, these UFOs are just something else to behold, especially in modern times now, my friends. So you better believe they made the breakthroughs a few years prior to those newspaper publications. So we know, my friends, come on. This has nothing to do, again, with ET or aliens. And I hope you guys enjoy my videos on the TTSA, To the Stars Academy. Some of these dirty players involved in Unfortunately, some unethical leadership behind the scenes, my friends, behind the curtain, and they're rolling out this ridiculous scam. Nobody has noble intentions of giving us the truth today on anti-gravity, my friends. We've been lied to, again, for 70 years now, my friends. I always say 60 plus, but really 70 years on this issue. It's time, my friends, we get that culturally integrated in our society, get the laws in place, and make a real cultural transformation and ultimately a societal shift, my friends. And again, it's going to beautify this planet in ways we can't even begin to imagine. But first step, we're going to be off stinky oil and gas. We're not going to need a hydro bill, my friends. We're not going to pollute this beautiful planet of ours anymore. And yet the covert military civilizations are utilizing it to go off-world. You talk about, they're having an amazing time, an amazing adventure going all over our solar system. Now they're in the rings of Saturn, my friends. I'll show you pictures of massive cigar-shaped craft. These are real pictures, even in the infrared. And I'll get you a book and show you the pictures from that as well, from Norman Bergenren, I think was his name. He just died at 93 years old. He worked for NASA at Lockheed Martin. They show you pictures, my friends, of the cigar-shaped craft in the rings of Saturn. They've been measured about 2 miles. Even Billy Carson, who owns his own space company, he tells you they're literally, the ones deep in space, some of them are the size of small cities. And he says they're operated, get this, by U.S. naval officers. And he says that's a fact. And this guy, my friends, the reason why I mentioned Billy Carson so much, and Dolan never talks about this guy, just as well, I get to bring him up, but Billy Carson, my friends, why he's so important, he's not just some whistleblower. This guy's a hardcore space insider because he has his own space company called First Class Space Agency, right? And he has top secret clearance every year at the Space Symposium in Colorado. He has to sign non-disclosure. I've said this on other videos, my friends, so he can't talk about exactly what's talked about in those meetings. But like me, my friends, he's trying to fight for the freedom of humanity in his own way. He's got almost 1 million followers on Instagram, Facebook. He's always trying to get his name out there. He's an entrepreneur, and he's trying to tell everything he can legally. So he's talking to private space companies, and he tells you, my friends, these cigar-shaped craft are operated by U.S. naval officers, and again, they're the size of small cities, 2 miles or more. I mean, incredible. And what are they doing in the rings of Saturn? I don't know what the hell they're doing there, my friends. Perhaps, apparently, according to this author, when I'm going to get his book, I think he was saying that he thinks they're building more rings of Saturn based on these pictures. And it could be that they're getting minerals, God knows what, oxygen, titanium or whatever's in these rings. I don't know. It's just the cosmos, my friends, is infinite. The cosmos has infinite amount of wealth to it. That's why they're mining the moon, the military, my friends. Again, there's trillions of dollars to be made in space. That's why we're mining asteroids, even though it's very delicate, very early, but we've begun to do that, my friends. Truly remarkable. Excuse me. So remember, my friends, when Richard Dolan talks about the national security state, you've got to come at it from real history, my friends, that unfortunately the U.S., largely the U.S., have used that Nazi-esque model, right? From the space program right down to the countdown. Again, starting up the U.S. space program with those Nazi scientists. These guys were way ahead of U.S. and Russia largely in the 1930s. We all know that with their technology. I've discussed Ronald Richter, my friends. He discovered cold fusion in 1936. He discovered zero-point energy in 1936 with the scientists, my friends. That's decades ago. And yet you got Richard Dolan singing the high praises of Hal Puthoff, who I'm sure he's a very good American scientist, but he doesn't tell you that he says Hal Puthoff, of course, is the expert on zero-point energy he describes. But Hal Puthoff and Richard Dolan, they don't tell you that was discovered in 1936. They began harnessing that zero-point energy after 1936, my friends, when they discovered it. So again, the point is, my friends, this is why I get so exasperated. We've had decades and decades. These covert military civilizations have had decades and decades to allow us, the rest of the world, to get it integrated in our society. And it's going to help them too, my friends, because these guys are living in space 365 days a year. I'm sure, like Dolan knows, many of them have families. They come back to Earth. So let's get the whole world to have this energy, my friends, okay? And it's too bad, these the people, my friends, that don't want to let go of the enslavement of the human race and their fundamental income, they know it's an energy apparently that's not easy to monopolize, right? Unlike oil and gas. Well, that's too bad, my friends. Let's still get it. It's too bad for these guys. Let's get it for everybody, for the world, my friends. Again, I'm trying to fight for the freedom of humanity in my own unique way to try to help get our power and sovereignty back. And together, my friends, we can all fight for the freedom of humanity in our own way and be respectful about it all. Again, there's a lot of great military folks, my friends, and people. And there's a lot of great Americans. When I talk about the Americans adopting this Nazi-esque model, again, there's a lot of great people in the United States. Overall, it's still a great country, I believe, my friends. And I just hope that 50 trillion that Catherine talks about that's been shifted out of North America, $50 trillion, my friends, I hope soon that some of that money at least will be to retrench manufacturing back to America, that we'll see it soon. And that's going to affect me in Canada and for the rest of us Canadians. But the question of that 50 trillion, my friends, as I said in another video, I find a very interesting question. Joe from the Carolinas and we talked about this on the live stream, but I didn't quite specify like this, is that how much of that 50 trillion is for off-world investment, because a lot of it is, my friends, again, the space-based economy, where they're mining the moon. You got all this covert production on the moon and Mars. I haven't even touched on Mars. We'll do a video on Mars another time, my friends. But so how much of it is for off-world investment versus how much of it is to assert global governance, basically of the planet, because they definitely want to do that, these shadows groups, the financial cabal, the elitists, call them what you will, versus how much do they want to, of that 50 trillion, how much is it to retrench manufacturing back to America, my friends, for the North American economy? Because they certainly want to do that, as much as a lot of people hate Trump. And Trump's got a lot of flaws in his personality, but we all have certain flaws, my friends. And I'm not a big Trump supporter or fan, but Trump, I believe he does want to create America great again. That was always his sort of persona there, and I think what he believes in. So, and certainly a lot of the elitists in America, my friends, I think they want hopefully to make America great again as well. The problem is, my friends, that at the same time I say that, a lot of the elements of this deep state, again, these covert military groups in deep state that are living through an anti-gravity space travel revolution, all the trillions of dollars that they've stolen, utilizing it for their covert production off planet, my friends, that's caused a serious compromise of what's going on with the manufacturing in North America and globally. There's got to be, they've got to get that balance, my friends. And that's why I say, stop. Let's have an open discussion of terraforming Mars, of what they've done over the decades. Let's talk about it. Let's have them tell us too of what's going on off planet, because we're seeing a push now for more of the world to go into space, with the private space companies. I'll talk more about that with the space-based economy. Anyway, but this video was supposed to be more on Dolan, my friends, and a little bit of what he's talked about with the national security state, and again, him describing the others, right? I still can't follow what he's talking about with these others, my friends. It's just strange. But overall, he's done some good work, Dolan has. We just got to keep him honest, as with everybody, my friends. I'm trying to be intellectually honest with my work. And even if I were to ever get thousands of followers, my friends, I'm never going to vacillate from my conviction that it's all military UFOs, because that's a fact, my friends. Absolutely it is. We made the breakthroughs in anti-gravity. And now they've got stagecraft in space, my friends. And some of these elitists, these groups, we know this from Wernher von Braun. Keep in mind, my friends, I talked about this on the live stream. They've got a plan that if they think they can fake an alien threat, this is part of the West, this is their vision, that they will try to fake an alien threat. Wernher von Braun warned us, my friends. They've got that technology. So we got to be aware, my friends. It sounds wild and speculative, but I'm sure it's a plan, my friends. And they're just doing amazing things with, yeah, sure, we got transhumanism, or we're having to move towards that. We got to be careful, my friends. We always got to maintain our spirituality, right, too. Okay? So let's keep fighting for the freedom of humanity, as I say, my friends. And we need a real push, my friends, a cultural drive to have ethical leadership. I touched on that before, my friends. I'm going to get a book by this guy named, I think part of his name is Axel Rod. and he talks about, you know, that we need ethical leadership, and he talks about the power of the human race to be able to hopefully identify the people that are behaving badly and unethically, and be able to shun therefore the dirty player. And that's why I say the TTSA, my friends, there's a lot of dirty players on there. And I don't believe, you know, Dolan, unfortunately, I think he's been persuaded by elements of the deep state, the CIA. You know, he's letting them use their power of persuasion with him, because Richard Dolan apparently is singing even the high praises of a Luis Elizondo. And I just hope Dolan can maintain his objectivity. But when you're talking to these guys a lot, it's hard to do that, my friends, because again, a guy like Elizondo, who overall is a great guy and he's a nice guy, but he's trained, my friends, to send disinformation. As a counterintelligence officer, you're trained to lie, so you got to be very careful with some of the things, the way he talks, and you know, he double speaks and stuff like that. So it's part of the job description. Again, I don't cut Luis Elizondo up for being, he was a great American patriot. He fought some wars apparently earlier in his career as an American patriot. But now he's pushing this narrative, my friends, through to the Stars Academy. He's probably working as a CIA contractor. And we, the public, the world, my friends, we shouldn't buy into this. There's a lot of lies and disinformation. It's not just from him, although Luis is the front man for the company. So there's a lot going on in our world, as you could tell by this video, my friends. And again, we're just living through amazing times. Okay? So have a great day, everybody. I got to go and have some lunch and calm down. I'm so excited. I get so passionate about these subjects. Again, just trying to fight for freedom of humanity and get our power and sovereignty back, as I keep saying.